And our reading comes from the book of Psalms and Psalm 139. Psalm 139. It's Psalm 139. And I know it's a lengthy psalm, but I'll just read it. To the choir master, Psalm of David. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there were none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God! How vast is the sum of them! If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I'm still with you. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God! O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. For the first 12 years of my life, I lived right in the middle of a street market in a small town in Korea. So my neighbors were always out in the market because they worked there. I remember greeting literally everyone at the market on my way to school each morning. I knew them all, and they all knew me. When I was around 10, I knew the price of rent of some of the stores there, and I even knew how much money some people made each day. We all knew who recently got separated and why, and who was in the wrong. We knew who did what before they came to the market. And the amount of free stuff, mostly food, like a box of dried anchovy and things like that, was huge. And it was just a natural part of life. After school, I would sometimes go to a friend's place, sometimes more than one friend's places, say hello to my uncle with my friends, and I would always visit my grandma on my way home. And quite frequently get told off back at home because I would go missing for a few hours. The days before mobile phones and the internet. Back then, there were multiple intimate relationships with your friends and neighbors, as well as with your family and close relatives. We just knew each other very well. We were better connected when we had neither mobile phones nor the internet. And these close relationships that you had in your community gave you a sense of belonging and plenty of funny episodes. And I found a piece of writing on the internet the source of all secure knowledge. about why people might put on a mask rather than get to know others and being known by them just the way they are and just the way we are. And here it goes. The world does not care about our issues or wants to even see us upset, scared, tired, hungry, or living in poverty, whatever the case may be when we put on our mask. The world cares not for our troubles, our tears, or sighs of frustration when things go wrong. The world only wants to see you while you have your mask on, not when you're just being new. So only let them see you with the mask on. That way, you cannot be really seen. And I appreciate that it's a different world now. And it's no good simply feeling nostalgic about the past and betraying my age. But what I do want to talk about today is the kind of intimacy that might exist in our relationship with God. What does it mean to be close to God? What does it mean to know God and be known by God? Today I want us to meet our very ancient Israelite psalmist who sang a song about his very close relationship with God. And let's see what that intimacy looks like. Because, who knows, we might also be able to have that sort of relationship with God. So, Psalm 139, being a song about the psalmist's intimate relationship with God, opens in verse 1 with the psalmist saying to God that God had searched him and known him. And I'll read the verse to you. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. Other translations read the verse like this. O Lord, you have examined me and known me. This is not the kind of searching police do when they suspect you of illegal possession of drug. The psalmist isn't afraid of being exposed to God. He doesn't feel the need to hide his secrets from God. Instead, he enjoys the attention he gets from God. I'll read to you verses 2 to 5 again. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before and lay your hand upon me. God, you are so interested in me. Your eyes and ears are all on me all the time. You're so focused on me that not only do you know my habits and quirks, you also read my mind. I don't have to work to get your attention. You understand my thoughts. I don't need to explain them to you. Your love for me is like a protective shield around me. It's difficult to know precisely why, but our psalmist imagines a situation where he might have to run away to a distant place. Verses 7 to 10. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. To put it in a crude way, the psalmist is saying that there are no vertical or horizontal limits to God's care for him. Verse 11 suggests that the reason for wanting to make a run wasn't a particularly pleasant one. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night. The psalmist expected the darkness to cover him. He thought that he was going to be somewhere dark once he had run away from everyone, once he had successfully hidden himself where nobody could find him. Exactly what kind of danger he was fleeing from, we don't know, But wherever he was going to, he wasn't headed to a good place. It wasn't a happy place that awaited him. And it perhaps felt like he was moving away from God's favor. Perhaps things were happening to him that made him think, these things can't happen to people who God loves. I am no longer under his care. But then this is what he discovers in verse 12. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. Even there, in that place in the sky above, or Sheol beneath, or in the furthermost parts across the sea, hey, look, God, you're here. You still care about me. You haven't ditched me. I certainly didn't expect to find you here. God turns out to be more obsessed about the psalmist than he thought. And so he marvels in verse 6. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's high, I cannot attain it. When you're in that unfamiliar place, the place in life where you haven't been before, when you're exposed to feelings and experiences you haven't encountered previously, when despite their best intention, people who are close to you aren't able to be with you in that specific place you find yourself, maybe you'll find out there that you aren't alone. You might already have discovered through experience that it's difficult to escape God's attention. Wherever your life might take you, that faraway place isn't very far from God. That dark place you find yourself in isn't too dark for God to see you. He still sees you and listens to your thoughts. So, okay, I get that. But why? Have you ever wondered, why does God care so much? What's in it for him? Not that I'm ungrateful or anything for his attention, but I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know why there's so much interest in me from God. There was a belief, there still is a belief, but there was a belief among the ancients that babies were created by God in their mother's womb. It's a funky idea, isn't it? That God creates babies in their mother's womb. There's a famous, there's a passage in the book of Genesis that really should be more famous than it is, but there's a verse in Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. If you have your Bibles, you can turn to the passage and even possibly make a note. And it goes like this. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Now I'll let you in a little secret. So this word gotten actually is I created. So Eve says, after giving birth to Cain, I created a man, and here it says, with the help of, and even greater secret that these words, the help of, isn't there in the Bible. Just, people who translated couldn't quite sort of translate so directly, so they, put in the help of. So the sentence goes like this. This is what Eve says after giving birth to Cain. I have created a man with the Lord. The Bible does not criticize this speech from Eve at all. So maybe it doesn't concern you brothers so much, but sisters, in the Bible, childbearing Childbearing is seen as an act of creation in partnership with God. Women, together with God, create, not just conceive, but create life in their bodies and give birth to babies. I don't know of a higher view of women or of childbearing than this. So it isn't just Adam who's created by God. It isn't just Eve who's made by God personally. We're all individually created by God in our mother's womb. Just like Adam was formed in the depths of the earth, you were also formed in your mother's belly by God, and that means God made you. Literally made you. I'll read to you verses 13 to 16. For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. You know, when a mother gets pregnant, the baby's parents start making plans. Parents go ballistic. There's a baby, you need to plan the life. You start with the name. You then wonder where and how you should raise the child. Who should look after it when? Who should work, who should go to work, and who should stay at home and look after the child? What would the child become when it grows up? The child will be a scientist, will be a nurse, whatever. How would you help the child to grow to be a good and respectable person? And all of this, even before the child is born. So why is God interested in you? Why does he care so much about you that he can't take his eyes off you? Why does he want to know your every thought wherever you are? It's because he made you. You are his work. You are the result of his excellent work. He crafted every part of you. And of course, he's interested in you. God has invested so much in you. And because of that, of course, he wants to be involved in your life. What parents wouldn't? Even if some crazy parents aren't, God isn't dysfunctional like them. And unlike our earthly parents, who after a long day at work might not have the energy to listen to what upside-down day you've had at school, God has all the time in the world to watch over you and examine you very closely. You are his interest, and you are his occupation. He has no more important things to attend to than to examine you and know you better. And you see, the psalmist wasn't made of stone or wood, as some people are. He was a living person. So after he had realized that he was the object of so much of God's love and care, he responded to God. Living people, they respond. When you punch somebody, they turn to you and they make a response. And if there's no response in you, it means you're not quite, you know what I mean. And how did he respond to God? He responded by becoming fanatical about God the way God had been about him. Verses 17 to 18. How precious to me are your thoughts, O God. How vast is the sum of them. If I would count them, they are more than the sand. I awake and I'm still with you. You see, previously it was God who wanted to know every thought of the psalmist all the time. Now the psalmist is also very much interested in God's thoughts. He's so occupied with God's thoughts, with his teachings, that he sleeps with them at night. They are his lullaby. And when he wakes up in the morning, he's still thinking about them. Before, it was the psalmist who could hardly ever be out of the mind of God. Now, God's teachings can't leave the mind of the psalmist. God had searched and known the psalmist better than anyone else. Now the psalmist is growing in his knowledge of God at a fast speed. Now this is intimacy, their feelings more than your own. Verses 19 to 22. Oh, that you would slay the wicked, O God. O men of blood, depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate those who hate you, O Lord? And do I not loathe those who rise up against you? I hate them with complete hatred. I count them my enemies. You see, this guy is not using God as an excuse to hate somebody. It's, just make no mistake there. The psalmist now gets really worked up. Not about those who've wronged him, but those who've wronged God. They are not his own enemies, they are God's enemies. But because the psalmist loves God so much, those who oppose God seem like they are opposing the psalmist. Because he's so emotionally invested in God now and in his teachings, he cannot understand why anybody would not love God the way he does. How can you not be mesmerized by God's wonderful thoughts? How can you not be addicted to his teachings? The psalmist gets offended when other people deliberately go against God's goodwill towards them. Those who belittle God's ways and slander him. Those who devalue the lives of others who are also created by God, they make the psalmist upset. Perhaps more upset than God himself. The psalmist concludes by telling God to continue to search and know him. The final two verses. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. God, I want to be absolutely in tune with you. I want my ways to be exactly like yours. So teach me more, God. Tell me more about your ways. What's your view on this? And what are your thoughts on that? I want to know your thoughts. So friends, how do you like this sort of intimacy? How do you like this kind of relationship with God? Did you know that God was so full of thoughts about you? Did you know that he personally shaped you inside your mother's womb and has been watching you closely since before you were made? Did you know that he has followed you everywhere, no matter what you've been through? I don't know. Maybe you already are as crazy about God as he is about you. Or perhaps the interest hasn't quite been mutual. Maybe you want to begin making a response to God. Maybe you want to begin to show some sort of an appreciation for his almost obsessive love for you.